Okay, one thing. The final I will post Friday afternoon, and you will have till Sunday at noon. So it means do it either Friday evening or anytime during Saturday. And you'll have 3 hours. Once you open it up on Blackboard, you will have 3 hours to complete it. You'll answer it there. There will be a block under each problem for you to fill in and all that. And so you can write in the answers, type them in, each question. And right now, to be honest with you, I haven't made it out yet. Got some questions formed in my head. Probably the format's going to be like it has been past. Probably be 7 questions this time. And one of them will be a bonus question. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Up to you. So that's the way we will handle that. And so you just get it done by noon Sunday. In other words, get it done on Saturday, the latest. In case somebody has to work Saturday, you can do it Sunday morning. But once you open it up, you can't close it and go back. It's got a time. But again, 45 minutes to an hour is what you should get, and then let it go on. Okay? Now, we're talking again, organizational environment, business strategy the other day. And again, we talk about, what's the mission of the company, what's its purpose, what do they want to do? And when they verbalize it, write it down, that is their mission statement. Again, it's just what are their values, its responsibilities to the stakeholders, and what are the major strategies. And again, basically when we're talking about strategies, we're talking what are the paths to your goals? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do it? And again, one thing, I don't mean that you just come up with what you should not do. What a lot of companies do that happens to all of us is you got a mission. Yeah, what's your purpose? Oh, we got that. We got it written down. Here's our statement. Do you ever look at it, evaluate it? What are our strategies? Do they fit our mission? Is what we're trying to do, is it anywhere near the goals we're aiming for? And in looking at our strategies, what are we evaluating? Are we sending mixed signals to our customers, to our employees, vendors? Exactly what are we trying to do? And we talked earlier in this semester, we talked several times about goal congruence. Well, that's an issue here too. What are we trying to do? How are we going to do it? A lot of times we put this stuff and it goes into a box and goes up on the shelf and we never look at it again. Invariably, that's what a lot of firms do. Different organizations. It's hilarious. I know one organization, this guy came in and made some changes and the membership just rebelled. And they went back and looked at the original charter, and he was doing exactly what the original charter said they should be doing. But over the years, it had changed so much that what they were doing had no relationship with what their mission statement was. Now, this was not a business, but it was an organization, nonetheless. And things do tend to get away if we don't keep focused on them. I mean, that's why I talk with some students sometimes, especially ones at the community college that are going to transfer and get a college degree. Bachelor's degree now that we've redesigned, the new improved model, is 120 hours, credit hours, right? Well, I had people come to community college talk to me, they already got 140 hours of community college credit. They're like, dude, you got more hours than for a bachelor's degree. The only problem is you ain't got no bachelor's degree. You got all these, you don't have any 300-400 level classes in this mix. So you're going to be coming up with graduating with like 200 hours. And so, why? Well, it could be that they changed majors and things happen. You know, that's true enough. But a lot of times we just don't stop and think. And I'll be honest with you, and I hate to say, and look, I'm not complaining any of y'all ever ask me things as an advisor or whatever. And even if I'm not your advisor, I don't care if you come ask. I may not know the answer. If I don't, I'll try to find out for you. So, I mean, I wholeheartedly, you know, it doesn't hurt to ask. I can always say, I don't know. But, you know, I never did think it was bad to ask anything like that, because you're the one spending the money. But it just amazes me that people, and nobody in here or online I can think has ever done this, but it just amazes me people come in to say, well, what do I need to do? What do I take? And they've been here for 2 years. And it's like, dude, you're the one spending the money. You don't know what's the clearest path to get the degree to get out of here. Now, again, I guess it depends on what your mission statement is. Do you want to get out of college? When I went to college, I wanted out as fast as I could. Now, later on, might have been a dumb thing to do. Stay around, enjoy it. But mom and dad weren't paying for it. I was. So I was looking at, okay, what are the requirements for the degree, which is in the catalog? How do I get there? What's my quickest path? And I would always go back and refer to it. And you know, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes I ask my advisor, they tell me wrong. I said, they didn't say this in the catalog. Oh yeah, we make mistakes too, guys. And so, you know, it doesn't bother me a bit if you pull out a catalog and say, well, isn't this what this says? I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, I'm glad I'm learning. So again, you know, it depends on what you're trying to do. And it just amazes me that they'll spend thousands of dollars and not even bat an eye about it. And I'm like, wow. Like I told my principal's class this time, we're talking about decision making, about where to buy or sell a product or a piece of equipment. And I said, well, what about y'all have cars? When do you replace it? Because I was trying to get them to think of, well, when operating costs is more, you know, than what it would pay to buy new and all that type of things like that. I go, guys, most of you, how do y'all get a new car? Mom and dad gives you one, right? I said, those days are ending soon. You know, now you're going to start buying your own. It'll be different. Decision-making process will be different. Now, again, reasons why the performance measures differ across the levels of the organization. Obviously, it depends on where you're at in the organization as to what's going on. You know, again, not everybody has access to all levels of information. And, you know, it's sort of like, what is our fraction of this overall mission? What can we do to further the organization? And the thing about it is, you know, as it says there, you've got many different groups there. And, you know, the different levels, different measurements of how we measure how to achieve the goals. I mean, it's like what I told you in decision making and all that. You don't want a general foreman buying a $500,000 or $1 million piece of equipment. On the other hand, you don't want the president having to approve the purchase of 3 brooms for maintenance. You got different levels of decision making, different models for each level, what they need, and how we're, you know, at the lower levels, we're probably going to use more non-financial measures. You say, wow, well, again, these are the people actually interacting with customers, right? So customer satisfaction is going to be paramount at the lower levels. You know, and also too, in production, product quality, our measures for product quality is probably going to be middle management. Now, we'll get that in a second. Middle management, again, non-financial measures are going to be important, but we're probably going to see a lot more financial measurements too, knowing how the pieces work together, our relationship with competitors, you know, how we're operating in an environment with our competitors. You know, things like the amount of employee turnover, delivery times, meeting delivery times, commitments, employee development, success in dealing with business partners. You know, at top level, we're probably going to be looking a lot more at the financials, meeting the goals of the company from the perspective of the stakeholders. And again, dealing with trade-offs from one to the other. Now again, a business model here is just a way of picturing, envisioning the different levels and the employees in the organization and what they've got to do to perform here. And you know, for any given strategy or environment, you can draw this. Here we've got a company, and we're just, you know, we're looking at, you know, the branch leadership. They want to satisfy employees. How I do that? Well, we want to make them excellent advisors so they can, you know, build the knowledge, act ethically, which satisfies customers, builds revenues. We want efficient operations going the other way and controlled costs to get our return on profits. You can make it for any level there that you're wanting to, this business model. You know, and again, you can have it, and we'll come back to this. I won't look exactly on the button and see your comments on it. Do you do a single measurement or do you use a multiple? Well, obviously, a lot of times, you know, overall, we want to be profitable. That's, you know, the thing about it is, it's sort of, when you have a single goal like that, it's usually easy to evaluate the results. But it doesn't really tell the whole story. A lot of firms are going to go to multiple measures. These days, you're more apt to find this type model, the different things and what you're measuring there. And you know, you can look at the different groups, you know, different groups of employees, who's responsible for what, you know, and again, and different methods of how to analyze it, evaluate it, different models when we do. We want, again, as I keep telling you, a common theme throughout business these days is we want a quality product at the least cost. And, you know, that will lead to many different things. But in coming up and looking how we measure performances, let's take a company and, you know, one problem I'm asking, but Bose, you've heard of Bose, right? Speakers, you know, radios and speakers. If we were to deal with the quality, what would be some measurements that we could do to evaluate the quality of our product and all that? What might they do? What would be some ways to measure these?
Sound tests or whatever. You know,
What?
Have people listen to music and rate the quality of speakers.
Okay. Number of defects, right? Not only quality of sound, but also scratches on them, you know, damaged goods. You know, why are they damaged? Who's doing it? Is it at the factory? Is it when we're being shipped? Exactly what? But what number of defects? Very common. What else? How else can we measure quality? Yeah. Any product you're thinking of, how does the company measure quality? Guys, it's going to be one of those when I tell you you're going to smack your forehead. There's a couple simple ones out there.
Like warranty, like they just figure out how much is sent back for warranty.
Returns, yeah. Number of returns would be one way. Yeah, I mean, if people return it, why are they returning it? That's obviously a failure in the selling process, right? Number of returns, what else? Besides just returns in dealing with customers.
Like product testing?
You could do product testing, that's another way. I was thinking more along complaints. Not only they didn't return it, but they complained. You know, again, one or two complaints here and there, you're probably not going to deal, because in dealing with the public, if you've ever dealt with the public, you'll know that, you know, there's always a few. You can do everything, you'll never satisfy. But on the other hand, if we see a common theme in the complaints, we may want to look at that and coming up with it, putting pieces together. Well, why is this happening? What's going on? would be another way to deal with measuring quality. What about performance delivery? Or would we look at that? How could we measure that? How's it going to be? I don't know. Somebody's got to come up with ways to measure these things. We got these goals we want to do. How we measure them? Our delivery performance. What can both do for that?
Send out surveys to people about the equipment.
Okay, delivery service surveys. Yeah. Did it arrive okay? Did it arrive on time when promised? Was it in good condition? Or excellent condition, whatever, that was promised? Is it what you ordered? And think about it, that's important. If it's not what they ordered, wasn't the right color or whatever, they send it back. And guys, it's not doing us any good to have products going back and forth with our customer. That ain't sales. That's not turnover. Like that. How about on-time delivery? Percentage of on-time deliveries. Is it getting there when we said it will be there? And you say, how do you do that? Well, they probably go through UPS or something. They know when it's being delivered. They can calculate it. How about percentage of deliveries damaged? Arrived there damaged, and investigate that. Why? Again, just little common sense ways. Again, how many times have y'all received surveys for things you've done or actions to take that they want feedback for you? Every time I talk to someone on the phone, I get a email saying, well, were they nice to you? Always reminds me of a little comedy routine guy on the phone. He's calling 911. He says, there's a guy being hit by a car, needs ambulance here. Sycamore. They said, how do you spell that? S-Y-K? No. S-E? No. And tries about 5 or 6 different spells. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll carry the dude a block over and you come to Oak Street. I always wondered about some of these things calling up when they survey if you did write back. Well, they treated me like they were the bride of Frankenstein. What they would do. But the thing about it is coming up with these ideas. How do we rate profitability or customer satisfaction? What tools do we use? What gives us meaningful input there? Now, a lot of companies, what they've come up with is this balanced scorecard, and I'm sure you've heard it in other classes. And basically, what we're doing here is we're setting up. Balanced scorecard means we're going to measure more than just one thing. It's more than just financials that we're looking at, and it's pointing out targets in different areas. What it does. It forces management to realize there's more than just one way to measure success and what it takes. And the thing there is what we're trying to look at. How are we doing when we've got all these different areas for competing stakeholder interest? Notice we do have that financial perspective, that we ain't doing away with it. That's still very important. I mean, that's what you accountants are really comfortable with, net income positive and things like that. That's not. But also know there's a learning and growth perspective, and that means like with your employees and things. Customer perspective, obviously. What's the customer viewpoint? We talked about that with like value added costs. From whose point of view? Customers. And internal business perspective. Never satisfied with just the status quo. Can we do it better? And again, basically, as it says there, we do organize it under objectives. How do we what are we trying to do? How are we going to measure? What are our goals? And what are incentives to get there? And they overlap, guys. Again, nothing's just done in a box and simple. You know, again, example they give here in this. How do we, financially is pretty much it, increase revenues, decrease costs. Now, with that per se, if we strictly just went by this, what could be a problem? What could be a real issue here if we said, okay, we're going to look at it from the financial perspective, and we're going to increase revenues, decrease costs? What might be a problem here?
You might not be making the best quality products.
Exactly. What's one way to reduce costs? Decrease quality, right? So in the short run, we might come out smelling like roses. But in the long run, customers start saying, don't buy that, that's a piece of junk. You know, sooner or later, it will affect that financial perspective will come into play. But in the short run, you know, you can play game. Interesting, like I say, I told you this, I'm reading a book now, 1929. It runs from the presidential election of 28 to about March of 1930. And if you know your history, that was the stock crash of October 29. It's really interesting, some of the things that they allowed back then that are illegal now. And basically are illegal because of what they did to us in 29 and the Great Depression. But basically, you would have a group get together and they would talk up a stock. And they would go out and buy it, big block of it, and they would go talk it up. And we're also talking about people on Wall Street. They would talk this stock up. Well, by them buying a huge chunk of it, supply and demand, the price obviously went up. As they talked it up, the price kept going up. Then what did they do? They sold their block, and then the price would come back down to where it should have been. But they sort of, you know, the old Steve Miller, take the money and run. They made their profit. And at that time, there was nothing illegal with doing that. Short run, you make some money. Long run, you got some problems. Again, we want to, you know, how should we appear from our customer's point of view? Timeliness, relationships, internal, satisfy our shareholders and customers, what most we excel, recycle time, reduce cycle time, manage product. We're going to look at this cycle time in a second. And again, we want to learn, we want to improve our knowledge, promote career development, employee satisfaction. Take a second here, just a diagram, pictures here. Look at problem 31, I think, 33, 33. Take a second to look at problem 33. It's pictured on page 684. Here you've got the 4 sections of a balanced scorecard, financial perspective. Notice they want to improve earnings, grow shares, increase ROI, customers' perspective, satisfy customers, internal perspective, control cost, improve quality, improve efficiency, and learning and growth, you got satisfy employees and increase employee skills. Notice how a lot of things are interconnected. Again, we don't operate in a vacuum. Now, they ask us, using this strategy map, it says comment on the performance measures used for each of the 4 perspectives on the scorecard. Would you recommend any changes to the structure? If so, what changes would you make and why? Do you want to take them one at a time, or do you want to just go willy-nilly on it? We can start to talk and work down, whatever. Lexi, what do you think? We'll let you decide. Lexi Day, you got the power. Start from the top. Well, Financial perspectives. Anybody got any, does this look reasonable? I'm trying to look at financial perspectives, improve earnings, grow shares, increase ROI. What's Lexi saying? Looks okay? Yeah. All right. That looks pretty good from a financial point of view. If I was going to say if there was a shortcoming, and I'm not saying that it is a shortcoming, but if there's anything I might change, what's one thing that's not really there? When we say what overall goals seem to be in this country right now, what's one thing we're not really measuring here? It's listed below, but it's not under financial. There's nothing there about controlling costs. Now, granted, they do have something in internal perspective, but they might, how to cost improvement. They might want to add something there, like maybe improvement margins, cost margins. I don't know. I mean, that's another thing. What about customer perspective? Pretty broad topic. Satisfies customers. How? I think it's pretty thin. I think they might want to add some stuff. What might be something what might be a perspective, something we might measure here, or something else? Let's define it a little bit more from a customer's perspective.
Provide better customer service.
Again, how are we going to measure it?
Less returns,
Less
less
returns?
like purchase returns.
Okay. Down the purchase returns? Okay. How else might we measure our success with customers too? How about percentage of repeat business? Retaining customers? Pretty good mark of satisfaction if they come back, right? And most businesses live and die on repeat business. They got to have them customers coming in. If not, they got problems, right? Very rarely do you have an industry it's a one-time only type deal. And so not only do we want to keep them, but internal perspective. Two of these three relate to what?
Financial.
Financial, or more specifically, what are we controlling? Trying to control, I guess I should say.
Your cost.
Cost. Two of them are directly related to cost. Why is it good they throw a positive point? Why is it good they put in there that quality, improved quality thing in there?
Because that's what's going to satisfy the customer.
Well, that's true, but if we focus strictly on cost, we get back to the earlier problem that Caitlin said, don't we? That one way to improve cost is to lower quality. So we want to make sure that that's not what's going on. It might be counterproductive in the long run doing that, but we want to make sure that we want to control cost, but we want to do it at a level of quality that we feel is necessary.
Shouldn't you draw an arrow from control costs to satisfy customers too? To do that, because if you control your costs, you should be able to sell for a lower price.
How does satisfying customers deal with control costs?
Well, because if you can sell it at a lower cost to the customer, then they're gonna be happier. They can get an improved quality product for less than they did pay.
Possibly. Now again, well, what we're saying here, this is how this company does theirs. There's not a right or wrong way per se. Okay, it's not everybody should do it this way, or everybody should do it a different way. Each system you go into, and by the way, when you go with job millet, I would look at the organizational charts and see how things are measured, what they're measuring. If you know how the ball game's being scored, it's easier to put points on the board, isn't it? It's like trying to play a game of cards and you don't know the rules, tough to win. But if you know the rules, then you can play to your advantage, right? So wherever you work, I would find out what they're doing, how they're scoring. What about learning and growth there? Anything odd there?
Increased employee skills doesn't lead to anything. Directly.
Sort of left off there aside. Well, how are they measuring it? Whether it's, how can they look at improvement in employee performance? We got satisfied employees that's going in there with improved efficiency and all that. But, increase employment skills. How are we measuring that? What are we doing? How are we interrelating to? Maybe something about task learning skills. Measuring educational curve, learning curve. Might be something we want to incorporate into that. And again, why are we worried about training employees, improving employee skills? Well, remember, merchant firm, sales department, who's dealing with your customers? It's your employees right there. And improved employee skills helps the bottom line. Again, it's all still interrelated. You don't want somebody on the cash register who can't make change, doesn't know how to deal with the public. They'll make or break you real quick. Have to be one. Now, it says, what are the strengths and weaknesses of a strategy map as developed by it? Obviously, there's a lot of links here that helps in the communications. Showing they got a lot of communications going on. But again, as we identified it, there ain't nothing linking in increased employee skills. Communicating that. It's what's the purpose of it? They're not showing it. And it says recommend changes that would better communicate the strategy and incorporate your recommendations from requirement A. Well, one of the things we said, we ought to add something reflecting measuring costs from a financial perspective. They might want to, I would modify that satisfied customer a little bit, like I said, with retention of customers. And again, making sure that there's some links in there that increased employee skills. But the thing about it is, it's interesting. Every company is going to be a little bit unique, but there is going to be some commonality. A lot of firms look at each other and say, "Okay, I like this, I don't like that," and try to improve themselves. That's what we're looking at. Okay. Like I say. And again, notice how it's similar to what's in problem 33 there. That there's, improved return, growth revenue, add customers. And satisfied, we got a lot more things going on with that satisfied customers. What type of firm could this actually could be a tax, I don't know what it is in the book we show, but it could be an accounting firm, tax returns. And in fact, a gentleman I know just got a job in the accounting firm here last fall. He just survived his first tax season. And I've been talking with him. Interesting stories. But, you know, you're talking about down there with that growth perspective. That's a real concern at the firm he's at. Because he said the other day he was looking around. In fact, we were just talking about this last night. He said, I looked around and there's maybe 4 or 5 of us under 40. He said, there's nobody between 40 and 60. He said, there might be 1 or 2 that are, 57, 58. He said, the rest of it, the partners, they're all in their 60s. He said, in 5 years, we're going to be facing an issue of, we got a lot of experience and knowledge going to be retiring, walking out the door. So how do we build knowledge, satisfy employees, develop leaders? You think, develop leaders, what is that issue? What are you going to do when you got a lot of expertise walking out the door? Who's going to step in and fill the breaches? That's what he was saying. He goes, I don't know what we would do if several of them would retire now. And just physically, how do we replace that effort? Someone we're hiring, a new person coming in the door, they're not going to have the expertise and the speed in doing tax returns that what we're losing. And in fact, I talked to one of the partners, and I've sniffed him on to one of my ex-students that's working international, and I think they're going to hire him next month. Wait and see. But the thing of it is, there is a lot of firms like that I know in our area. There wasn't a lot of hiring they've hired some in the last 5 years, but before that, there went a lot of years where they didn't hire that many. And so you've got a real chunk, right? And we're the same way here in Moorhead. I mean, College of Business, you look around, there's a whole lot of us old. Gotta be careful what I say here. Old people around here that, your aunt, right? She's getting ready to retire next year. And, I'm hoping in a few years to do the same thing. And it's like our boss last year came in and talked to the accounting faculty and all that. And he was doing all this stuff on his plans. And I said, you do realize in 5 years you could be replacing everyone in here. He goes, yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. But it's like, you got a lot of people walking out the door here sitting. I mean, either being carried out with a cover over their head or walking out, We hope they're walking out. Some of y'all may differ and disagree and hope that they got a sheet over me, but, hey. But the thing of it is that, what does the business do? How do they look at that, developing leaders and making sure that there is a continuation? Now, I mean, we've all seen other, I've seen people I've worked with on that, they thought, oh man, they won't be able to perform without me. And I've always been amazed by that. Dude, they operate before you got here. They're going to operate without you after you leave here. Now, it may not be as smooth, but they will go on with that. Nobody is indispensable. And it's good. I would always believe that when I'm working little tip. You are replaceable. Never think that you're not. And that's just to prevent you from getting attitude that some people get, you gotta have me. But on the other hand, what does the company do looking at this? How are we going to fit in and replace these people? What are we going to do? And again, you just don't get people coming off the street. I don't care if they've just got an accounting career or even if they're a CPA. Do they know your clientele? Do they know how? You don't hire somebody from up north to come in and deal with your clientele base here in Eastern Kentucky. I'm sorry. It won't work. Why? You guys are from Eastern Kentucky. But am I wrong? I mean, we're clannish in this part of the country. I don't care what you say, we're clannish. And somebody coming in outside, there is a little bit of suspicion of it. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, you've seen that, haven't you? In dealing with it? It's like one professor I know at another institution, he always used to put down Eastern Kentucky and all that. And I finally looked at him one day and said, dude, you've been here 30 years. you're putting yourself down. No, I'm not. I said, you're here, you act like us. You are one of us. You've been here 30 years. You know, you're putting yourself down. And, I said, hey, that's the way it is. But again, from a perspective point of view in a CPA firm, would that not be an issue? And I guarantee y'all that, well, who's his daddy? Where's he from? People want to know that relationship, dealing business with you. Now, continuous improvement, a lot of firms are dealing with this. We always want to reevaluate and improve. We want perfection. Even though we may not stand there long, doesn't mean it should be a goal. That's what I'm trying to get through some of this since we don't do. Benchmarking is coming up, and we're comparing ourselves to not only ourselves and others, but you got to have some way to measure. Benchmarking is coming up with a 36-inch yardstick on anything. What's our competitors doing? What did we do last year? Where do we want to be coming up and putting in standards? There we go. Manufacturing cycle time. Most of the time, when we talk about what makes this up, we'll get back to others, but it's, we look at the time involved in processing, moving, storing, and inspecting products and materials. Now, in terms of how efficient we are, that's your processing time divided by the manufacturer cycle time. From a point of view from the customer, again, delving in this a little bit, how does the customer view this as value? What do they consider value added in our manufacturing cycle time? What elements would they consider value?
Like the speed that you can get to them from the time they order it? Or?
No, I mean, I'm talking of those elements in there that goes into cycle time. What do they view there as value add and what's non-value? If we're looking at it from a customer's point of view. And that's true with any product, guys. Well, let's go through it. Processing. Would customer view processing time as value added? Would they?
Yeah.
Sure. How else are they going to get the product? Unless you make it, right? I mean, let's pick anything. Potato chips, whatever you want. Potato chips. Peeling the tables, cutting them, frying them. Yep, I'd say that's all. I figure that's pretty valuable if I want potato chips, right? What about moving it? No. That's not value added to it from a customer's point of view. Now, just because I say it's not a value added, does that mean we need to eliminate it? Well, obviously, if we can cut down non-value added time, we've talked in earlier chapters, the better it is for performance for us. But guys, guess what? You do have to move those potatoes over and the chips and the things. And things have to be moved. Now, what we can do is try to design it to reduce the movement, reduce that cost as best as possible. Just because we say it's not value added doesn't mean we can totally eliminate it. What about storing? No, they're not going to look at that. Now again, does that mean we eliminate it? No. But we try to reduce it. And again, that's just in time tries to eliminate it, right? That work in process, we try to get it down to zero. Well, it's fine. It's not value added expense, that storing is. Inspection. Maybe the customer views that as value or non-value added.
On the boat?
Actually, no. They don't view that as value added. What's the assumption they make?
Usually do it like professional.
Exactly. When you go to the store to buy something, you're going, well, I hope this is a good one. And you may go if you're buying a watermelon or a cantaloupe or something like, well, I hope it's a good one. I never have learned how you can tell whether it is good or not. You know, people knock on them and all that jazz. But I've never figured it out. But the thing about it is, if I go buy a product off the shelf, I'm generally assuming off the bat it is what it is, it'll do what it says it'll do. I assume that, don't I, as a customer? If not, I get very upset. Return it. Want my money back, right? So, you know, really, when we're looking at it from a customer's point of view, processing is the only one that they're doing. So if we can, now again, what do we try to do with those others? Try to reduce them down as much as possible. Does that mean we eliminate them? Probably can. Inspection of it, we are trying to do it now. Statistical process control, just-in-time inventory. What is just-in-time? What we got to do? We got to make sure that our vendors provide us with a quality product. What are we doing? We're eliminating inspection, are we? When you deliver goods to Toyota, you have to prove your quality, that you make a quality product, or they're not putting it in their car. And when they deliver it, they're assuming you've made a quality product. Now, if it turns out it's not, guess what? You may not stay a vendor very long. I mean, like I told you earlier one time, AK still has a contract with Toyota, but they will accept steel only from the Ashland works. They will not accept it from Middletown because of quality issues, for whatever reason. And one time they shipped some steel to them and marked it as Ashland steel when it wasn't. And it did cause some problems in their manufacturing. And they called them in and said, if you do that again, you will never be a vendor with us again, period. You don't think that didn't get the top boys' attention? Scared them to death, because that's one of their major customers. And the customer's telling you, look, I'll never buy from you again. I don't care what happens. And so, yeah, that, when we're trying to eliminate, that's what a lot of these new things out in management and with the business going on, it's to eliminate some of this, what we're talking here, reduce it. We expect you to provide us with a quality product. And I'm going to expect, and a lot of companies do statistical process control. Auto industries back it up to the steel industries, which back it up to their vendors. And you got to produce X and Y charts that proves your quality to them. That's how you get to be a vendor. They have an approved vendors list. And you just don't walk in off the street and get on it. You actually have to prove that you can do it. And if they walk into your company and show me your XY charts, you better have them ready. Show them. So I mean that's the thing. Now, again, productivity. Some of the measures, homework problems you're doing. Again, we're just measuring the inputs to outputs, percentage-wise. And obviously, the more output we can get for inputs, the better we like it, right? We like a 1-to-1. Generally don't get that. But, I'm going to mark those as. Well, look at 31, dealing with cycle time. To have kids or not to have kids? That is the question. I don't know, it's titled of some paper up here. I don't know, what you have, you sometimes wonder why. Then you think, maybe the Praying Menace has the right answer. Why I want to go there. Okay. Anybody? Buttons on, what minutes? There we go. This is computer too, I didn't know that. Okay. Here we got, problem 31 says, let's just calculate the efficiency, the cycle time, excuse me. Manufacturing cycle efficiency. Okay. What is it?
20%.
20%. Seems real easy. All you do is take your 5 days and divide it by 3, 5, 2, and 15 is 25. So you want 2 or 3 of these on test, right?
Just make the whole test.
Yeah.
just-
Make the whole test at problem 31.
That'd
Yes.
be wonderful.
Yes. Yeah, right. And we know that's probably not going to happen, right? What about this performance measurements here? Look at problem partial period product there at 29. Partial productivity measurements. It says here, the cost accounting manager of McKinley Industries, you're responsible for compiling and reporting various performance measures to the senior managers. MI instituted many efficiency improvement programs recently, and the CFO has asked you to measure and report partial productivity for both labor and materials. And they give us the data for the following last 2 years. It says compute the partial productivity measures for labor year 1 and year 2. Now again, output divided by input's all you're doing on labor. Again, in this case, it'd be gallons divided by hours. What?
You want 50%?
No. Huh?
Year 2, that's what I'm like, year 2.
Year 2. Yeah, year 2 would simply be 25,000 gallons of output divided by 50,000 hours equals 50%, 0.5. What is it in year 1?
It's 53%.
52.6%. Again, just dealing with labor there. What is it for materials? Again, be just 20 over 40, right? Year 2? 25 divided by 45. $55.6 or 0.556. So, has these efficiency improvements programs resulted in greater productivity?
The materials, yeah.
Materials it has, but labor's went down, didn't it? So basically, we don't know where these efficiency programs have just really switched productivity between labor and materials. We don't know. there's, needs to be more investigation, but,
Well, plus, could you look at the cost of each? Like if,
oh, yeah, I mean, the relative savings in materials, is it more than offset the increase, the decreased productivity in labor? Absolutely you would. It's just like in variance analysis, when you look at efficiency compared to price, and it may be that one offset, more than offsets the other. Okay? Well,